Everybody, welcome back, everybody. We are so excited. We're in chapter Yud Gimel, chapter 13 out of 54, which is amazing. And we're learning very fundamental things, uh, very fundamental ideas which allow a person to directly connect or direct their prayers to the original source of everything, to the essence of God Almighty. And there's details to make it real. There's details, and um, when it comes to the concept of belief, so where does belief come? Does the belief come in the beginning, or does the belief come after the understanding? So the way I was taught is once you use your mind, you basically max out your capability of understanding divinity. That's when belief starts. Belief starts in the place where you max out your understanding. And that way, the divinity becomes united with you, with your internal abilities. Otherwise, it's something that's beyond your mind, but it doesn't really rest in your mind. If you want the divinity to have a home inside you, you need to first max out your mind in trying to understand it, and then the rest will come as a gift. So what we're speaking about is, we've been speaking about this 5 metaphor. So we can only, with our physical mind, we can only understand metaphor from this physical world, because we can't understand abstract things without using concrete metaphor. So we have 5 concrete metaphor for divinity before the contraction, before tzimtzum, and then we have 5 metaphor for tzimtzum, for the contraction, and then we have 5 metaphor for the rishimu, for what's the first stage after the contraction, which is like the logo or the signature. And so let's read inside, and we're going to what we've done the metaphor. Now we're applying the metaphor to the lesson, and that's when we get the right brain involved. See, when we're just studying the metaphor, it's it's really a left brain activity, bina brain activity. But when we apply it to the lesson, to the level of divinity, then we need a little bit of intuition as well. So we start to use the right brain as well, and that's when we get we get closer to the divinity. And so that we're already learning the metaphor in the metaphor in the lesson, in the divinity. So let's look inside. We're up to, I believe we're up to Achine Be'emes. Let's put that up if it's possible. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to read from the screen. Achine Be'emes. However, in reality, Ein Dimyan Emiti LeBechinas Reshimah Hanishar B'Chalal Rekan. There's no real good metaphor to explain the signature, the logo that remains in the apparent empty space for divinity. There is no empty space. It's just apparent to us as if it's empty, and there's some sort of logo that remains. And it's considered like an open space. Ki hu merish nistalik misham hakel. Because because the metaphor is, it seems like everything left. And there's no light. And only that the light is something which is compact and limited. But the word Rishimu implies something else. It implies only like what a detective would find. a detective or a tracker, when they're tracking somebody, they see slight movements in the branches or of prints, and he figures out, oh, somebody must have been here. That's what a reshima means. Like the person's not here. He was here before. But that's not really what the reshima is. So therefore, a better metaphor, a real metaphor, it is from a, like, drawing a small little line, that the professionals write. That includes in it, it's hidden in it, all the length which is necessary to build Maisa Binyan, the contractor work. The Yosem is and a second metaphor, it's like a letter to remind you something. Like in the military, we use acronyms to remember complex behaviors. So these are like a letter to remind us. So it's also in the Gemara, letters to remind us. And I'll give you, I was speaking with somebody this week. There was a lady in Europe, and she built, after the war, she built a business, and she would go to the fashion shows in Europe. And you weren't allowed to take any photos, and you're not allowed to draw any pictures. So she used to look at the picture of the jacket, write on a piece of paper 3 little lines, and then that was enough. That when she came home, she was able to, on a sewing machine, look at those 3 lines and be able to create a lower quality knockoff of the same jacket she saw in the fashion show. So that's like the lines. It's not even a plan. It's less than a plan, but it's just enough for the contractor to be able to build a building. And the second one is an acronym, a letter, which reminds us of something else. Let's go further. And so too, above, it says in the prayers, in King David's Psalms, it's 5, which Psalm is it? 145, I believe. And in the middle, there's a verse. It says, Zecher Rav Tumcha Ha'atzmi, a remembrance of your great good. And over here he adds the word, the essential good. In other words, when you say those words in the prayer, when you say King David's Psalm 145, and you say this verse, the remembrance of your great good. Now, this is what it means. The remembrance refers to the Rishimel, and the great goodness refers to the goodness, unlimited goodness of the essence of God. In other words, the goodness goes down through the Rishimel, but it doesn't change its identity. So far we're repeating over the metaphor for Rishimel, and we said the first metaphor is like a lines of a contractor, and those hint to the entire building, or some letters to remind us of a complex procedure, like an acronym. And we just told that's what we're supposed to think when we say the word Zecher Rav Tumcha Atzmi. Practice it for a few days, and it'll become second nature. Then he said, there's another one, a third metaphor, is that the creation of the world is more like a stone that's thrown. You don't see the hand that threw it, you just see momentum. You have to figure out that behind that momentum, that there's an invisible hand that threw the stone. And I believe in Sefer Abayir, which is a Kabbalah book, holy book, Mezarka, one of the tropes of one of the notes that are used in singing when reading the Torah is called Zarka, and it hints the idea of something being thrown. In other words, you don't see the identity of the creator. The world is just like it's thrown. The planets move. There's really a hand that moves it, but we don't see that. That's because the idea of Rishimo, the idea of a logo, is it's like separated from the essence of the light of God. So you don't see the essence of the light of God. Well, you don't recognize the essence of the light of God actively doing things. It's a hidden power inside this signature. He's explaining what's going on. He says that the light that is coming from the logo is you can't identify it with the essence of the light. The unlimited night, unlimited light. Just like the momentum in the throwing of the stone is separated from the source, which is my hand, which comes from the power of the hand. It's already hidden in the momentum. So this is why we need the right brain. He's saying, we learned the metaphor in the previous chapter, but I'm telling you, this is what it means. It means that the essential light, which exists before the essence, it's hard to trace it back. The light of the Rishimo, it's hard to trace it back to the light before the Tzimtzum, just like it's a challenge to trace back the thrown stone to which hand threw it. Kedimian Kol HaGalgalim Mekechvei Leches. Now something very interesting. He's saying that the Rishimu is also a visual metaphor. He says, Kedimian Kol HaGalgalim, all the supernal, what's it called? Orbits. And the way orbits, we understand the way orbits work, is like there's like a sea, a magnetic sea. And I was just learning with somebody a few weeks ago, and they had studied a little bit of Einstein, and they got really excited. Yeah, this is not what Einstein says. It's a magnetic sea. So this is Koach Kol Galgalim, the Galgalim, the orbits. They're like invisible onion peels that move around. And stars basically sit in these magnetic fields, and the orbit moves around. Leches means they move, the stars that move. This includes the planets. We also call in Torah, we call planets also kechvei, like stars. That they move around from the godly momentum which is hidden, that it's like a being thrown. And it directly, the movement comes from the light and the power, divine power, the test kelim machitzenim the malchus da'asiyah, of the 9 vessels, external vessels of malchus da'asiyah. And I'm going to explain. I'm going to stop now. I'm going to explain this because this is really cool. And one of the reasons why it's really cool is because this is like where you can actually see physical spheres. So we know that there are 10 building blocks that create the world. So you're going to say, well, where can I see them? Well, let's divide up each building block. Let's divide up all the spheres. Each sphere has an intellectual, emotional, and a locomotive, like moving. Like emotion is like motion. It's a moving aspect to it. So, for example, if somebody so the intellectual would be like the direction of the sphere. The emotional would mean you love something, you dislike something, but it's still no movement. And then there's the external aspect of each sphere where things become executed. Executed means like get done, like implemented. What was decided with the intellect and the feeling that was felt is now done. So there's, let's say there's, and there's 10 spheres. So the 10th one is basically a mirror that's going to express all the others. So we're going to say the test spheres. So there's test kalim. Now each sphere, this is why we can't see the spheres, because they're building blocks, but they house themselves in different objects in the world. These, and of course, we as our body, we want to make sure that the right energies are housed inside us. We can choose by our behaviors and our thoughts and our speech. We can decide what type of energy is going to be housed in our physical vessel, our physical body. So, but there are physical vessels of the 10 spheres. So basically, the external part of the 9 spheres, kelim machitzeni, means external vessels. They house the sphere. Are the main 9 orbits, and it gets powered by Malchus Asiya, the expression of the divine world of Asiya. That means Asiya means God doing things. And then Malchus Asiya means the expression of God doing things. Shenikra ze koyach hanivdal, and the energy in these orbits that moves down these invisible magnetic fields, which are orbits, bechinas Malchus sheba Malchus. And we say what powers this world is Malchus sheba Malchus, expression of an expression. Why is it a double language? Expression of expression is because you don't see the invisible hand. If it would be Malchus, that means you would see God. Malchus the Malchus means God puts something, like he throws something, and then you only see number 2, Malchus the Malchus, expression of an expression. So the originator of the energy is not apparent and evident, because he has to hide himself. Otherwise, that we wouldn't have, if we wouldn't have freedom of choice, right? And then we wouldn't have the idea of, we wouldn't have things like courage and these beautiful things we wouldn't have if we have to have the ability to, God has to have the ability to hide himself so we could have challenges, so we could bring out these wonderful traits, as for example, courage. So it's something interesting what this fellow that I was learning with told me. He says, well, he figured out on his own, you must also mean that the sun and the moon are part of these 9 orbits. And I said, well, you're really good. Yeah, exactly. So the Earth isn't one of them. And then you have 7 planets, and the sun and the moon also get 1 orbit, and that's 9 altogether. And each of them house a different sphere. Each of the 9 house a different sphere. Haba be'erech richuk nivdal. So the energy that goes into these 10 orbits, it's 9 orbits, like a separated energy. It doesn't look, creation is not like writing with a finger or a hand moving things itself, benifal, in the object that's being moved. That would be a revelation of God very close by. That would be God's direct leadership. If we see the hand of God, that's Malchus. If we see like things moving by themselves, that's malchus of malchus, expression of an expression. It's a mirror of a mirror. Like this is explained somewhere else at length. So now you know what you're looking at when you look up in the sky. You're looking at the orbits that house the spheres, and you don't see them moving. But if you spend a long time in the sky, so you'll see them move across the sky over time. A very, very close mashal to what the Rishimu really is a hand gesture. Shezeu nikra bechinas halbasha v'tfisa b'dav nivdal, because in a hand gesture you have a intellectual idea being housed in a physical gesture. So there's a change of domain. And similarly, when you write a wisdom and you only see the movement of the fingers, so there's a double concealment over there. You see a movement of fingers, and you have to, from that, figure out what letters he's writing, and then from the letters, you have to figure out the storyline. So it's a double concealment and a change of domain, because you have physical movement to physical letters to an idea, change of domain, major change from the physical world to something intellectual. So we've done all five. First one, we repeated all five. First one was like a making lines for planning. Second one was acronyms. Third one was throwing. Fourth one was hand gesture. And the fifth one is, the fifth metaphor is you only see the movement of the fingers, and you have to figure out what he's writing, and then you have to figure out what that means. So you see double concealment and change of domain. Kach l'mayla b'chinas harashimo b'chinas davar nivdal be'erach shebe melubash behelam klalos atzmus. So it's something that looks something totally different, our world, but it is inside it. Even though we have to change domain, we have the entire essence of God encapsulated in this Rishimo, which creates our world, which v'amna mikol ela yuvan al kopanim klolos inyan Rishimo. However, even though each of the metaphor is imperfect, nevertheless, if you learn all of them together, you get a picture of what the Rishimo is all about. Even though it seems like the author leaves, I mean like God, and it's only the author's identity is only extremely hidden, extremely short. By Remez, it's all a gesture, or kayach nivdal, or a separate energy. It seems like some sort of separate energy, like thrown. Nevertheless, from this, what was left over for this imprint, from this signature, from this logo, nimshach kol prate ishtashlos the kav, all the parts of the chain order of the spiritual creative process of the kav. The kav means the ruler that measures it out. That extends itself from this logo. Because since the logo encapsulates everything behelim in a hidden way, al kapanim hianisenes, this logo gives the ability this logo allows that later on everything will be now have the ability to be revealed in a settled manner. And it's going to be through the ruler, a spiritual ruler that measures out energy, Atzef Asiya, and it's going to be active till the end of our world, our creation. Kemaimar kolak yitzur loy nichad mimcha. Like there's a saying, every creation is not separate from you. Mimcha dafka, from you means the essence. Shezeu akol nasev nimshach begalui k'mesh ala b'retzene apashut. Because everything comes down in a revealed way, the way it went up in God's, whatever went up in God's simple desire, Batzvus Ha'er, in the essence of the light, Shelifnei HaTzimtzum, that was before the contraction, the way God measured everything before it's going to happen in himself. That's exactly what's implemented later on. Because in this original thought that God had before the Tzimtzum, that he measured in himself what he wants to implement, in that he tzeifa is to look out, umabit, and look carefully, hakol, everything, b'skira achas, with one glance. In other words, the entire creation, all the thousands of years of creation, all of history, everybody's story, all of that God saw with one glance. Dahainu, this means Mashen Niskar Behelam Bekitzer, what God glanced over quickly in a hidden way, in a very fast way, Veremes, and it's all hinted Bereshim Azu in this logo. Harizek Moshel Reshim Mauman, what God did, that's similar to what an architect does when he makes little notes. Specifically from those little notes, he's able to make the lengthy building. Measure twice, cut once. So it's all worked out in those lines. The prat, in Maisa Binyan Prati, in all the different parts. Prate Pratev, all the extreme parts of the building, it's all hidden in those lines. Meresh Lesefer, from the beginning to end, from the head to the tail. The reason why the architect makes the logo or the lines is in order that it shouldn't like be hidden from him. Time of the reason why he did this in the first place. To the length of the building. Oh, he makes a letter, an acronym, to remind himself that he shouldn't turn away mizeh, from his plan. So another reason why a builder, or he makes a letter, an acronym, is in order that he should implement specifically the plan which he had in mind from the beginning. And he shouldn't have to go through the whole process of self-discovery again. In other words, the process of self-discovery of what I want to do, it happened already. It happens before Tzimtzum. I mean, obviously it's happening all the time, but that happens before the Tzimtzum. At the point of the Rishimo is we don't want to go through that all over again, measure everything up. We just want to have a reminder that this is what we decided and this is what we're going to implement. Sort of God's like creating that. That's what the Rishima is. This is what we decided. This is what we're going to implement. You won't understand, but I will, because I have the plan. It's hidden in the logo. And it's actually in the Gemara, it's not in the military, but in the Talmud, it's very common that we have these acronyms, Lilmed Amok B'Atzmei, for deep learning for a person's self. A person takes notes. And sometimes he takes notes in order that he shouldn't lose the deep idea that he's taking notes on. and maybe other people won't be able to understand the notes, but it's enough that he should be able to remind himself, the person who, the innovator, it's enough for him to be reminded that he needs to implement what he just discovered. Basically, the acronym is very useful. Toyelas means it gives benefit, because we Leda, we can know mehem, from them, kol erech iyun, all the length of the iyun, deep learning, amuk. Okay, iyun, looking deeply, amuk, that's deep, ba'atzmein, himself. Sheyeshlei, that the person already has, pen yatim that he shouldn't go off it. In business, a person, sometimes they know an idea is going to be successful, but they sort of like start doing all these pet projects on the side, which are not core to the central business that he knows will be successful. So the Rishimu is helpful to him, that he shouldn't get distracted by pet projects too much, and should stick to what he plans, to stick to his business model, because he knows it's a good one. So he has to have his focus. So that's the point of the acronym, that the businessman will remain focused. Kach b'chinas Rishimu, so too, Azais, in the spiritual Rishimu, HaKeleles Beremes, which has hidden in it, Uvekitzer, in a short way, Mikol Era Atzmus Hanelam, from all the light of the essence which is hidden in it, which is hidden in this logo, in this Rishimu, Hu Atzmei Hamoker Lekol Amshachis, the Kavachut. So the Rishimu is the source from which, in other words, it's like an electric channel, like electricity. It is the source from which the power of the Kavachut, which is the ruler and the string, which will measure Bebechinas Makif and Pnimi. What do you need to measure? First, you need to measure a domain. That's a makif, that means to surround. Upnimi means a commitment to a specific thing now, here and now, at a given time, in a given place. So you need a ruler to measure. You need a string to establish beginning, middle, and end, so there can be a storyline. And in the beginning, middle, and end, you need to have a domain in each category, and what we decide is going to be the pnimi in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end. From the head to the tail, to the end. The point of Rishima is that everything should be implemented the way it went up in his desire of Chochmas, and his wisdom, Apshuta, his simple wisdom. In other words, it's not mixed in with any other considerations. It's him himself. Ba'atzmus Ein Sof Mamish, in the essence of the unlimited light itself. And this is what's written in another place. Whenever you make a dot, it has two parts. A dot has helem, has something hidden in it, because it's the beginning of the story. Vizgalus, and it has that's hidden. It's hidden, but it also is the beginning.
Chyrek, could you please repeat that, because you said it, and the buzzing, beeping.
Yeah. So a nakuda, when you make a dot with ink on paper, you have two things that the function of this dot is. One thing is the fact that it's at this point in time, it doesn't say a story to others. On the other hand, it will be the beginning of the story. It will be the beginning of writing the story. So he has his galus as the aspect of revealing. So you can't write a whole story up before putting the dot on the page. So basically, this is the dot on the page. That's what the Rishimba is. That's one of the things that the Rishimba is. It's a dot on the page, which has the aspect of keeping this. It's hidden and the beginning of revelation. Let's go further. Beis Hefchim. So it's two opposites. a dot on the page is two opposites. Helen Mikol Masha Elyon Hemenu. It's hiding everything that's higher than it. Say it again. It's hiding everything that's higher than it. Be'erech in quality. Vigilui um be'erech and anything and higher quality. Vigilui hakol makablim. But it will allow for revelation to the sorry about that. It will allow for revelation to the receivers. Nimsa memenu. They're going to come from it. Dafka specifically. You know, I heard somebody was saying something interesting is they used to think that a black hole is nothingness, but now they realize it's a lot of energy. So, but the problem is you can't reveal things if you're overwhelmed with energy. So the energy has to be hidden in order to be able to reveal things, like the water. Water is made out of hydrogen and oxygen. If you use electricity to separate all hydrogen and oxygen, you can actually then blow it up. It's going to make a fire and a noise. But then if you split the hydrogen, you're going to get nuclear energy. You can power a city. Now, I could enjoy the water if we reveal the nuclear energy inside it. It's going to be too much for me, right? So we need to hide the energy in order that it could become hydrogen and oxygen. And then we need to mix them up that they shouldn't be combusting, burning up, so I could actually enjoy the water and drink it. So it's a revelation for me. Because for me, now the water, when the energy is hidden inside it, now it reveals, it's a revelation for me. It's something that I can actually benefit from. And I have the equipment in my body to be able to accept the water. I don't have the ability to accept an open combustion of water. And I definitely don't have the ability. My vessel is not able to handle the nuclear fusion or the new splitting of the atoms of hydrogen. Can't handle that, right? So it's not a revelation for me. It'll be an overwhelming for me. It'll be the opposite. So when does this water be able to be revealed in my body in a useful way? When it's hidden, when its energy is hidden. So it's like two people standing in front of each other. The right hand usually represents the idea of giving, and the left hand represents the idea of like holding back, being strict. But when you're standing face to face to another person, your right hand corresponds to their left hand. And your left hand corresponds to their right hand. So when you give from the left, they're receiving, you're giving, let's say if I'm giving my left hand, which is my constriction hand, it's a vessel for the divine attribute of constriction, but the other person is receiving on their right hand. So they're receiving kindness, because when I hold back, that's when the outcome is kindness. Sometimes when a person just like overwhelms with goodness, they spoil a kid, for example. So the outcome is not kindness. The outcome is the opposite. But when they hold back, when they have a certain level of discipline, of self-discipline, so the outcome will be kindness because you didn't spoil them. So we have to understand this two sides of the coin, and what is gilui, what is revelation, and what is hiddenness, because sometimes being hidden creates the possibility for revelation. That's what we're saying over here. There is shimo, the idea of a logo of God concealing himself in these like metaphor of 5 ways, that gives the possibility of revelation, which is kav v'chut, makif, and pnim. Those are the building blocks. If you're a programmer, those things need to be established first. And then there's this ruler that comes from this rishimu, from the logo, shu Ketsuras Vav. And the metaphor is, it looks like a Vav, which is in Hebrew, it looks like a hook. Sheresha Yud V'Helech V'Nimshach Lamata. The head is a Yud, which is the hook aspect, but then the foot of the hook goes down, because that's what's happening. That's what's happening. We have this dot, and from that we have a ruler comes out of that. Just a metaphor. This doesn't actually happen, but this is a metaphor. A ruler comes out of that, and that will be used to create the world. Like this is explained in another place at length. Now, from everything that we've learned, we understand generally what the idea of tzimtzum is, of God making it appear like he's not there. The mokum pani, like appear like there's an empty space, and there appears just some sort of logo or hand gesture or something, vakav, and then there's a ruler that's going to measure energy, shuhurak bechinas hagbalas ba'atzmei. That's all. It's all about God creating boundaries in himself. Why are the boundaries? Is in order to be able to reveal in a revealed way. Now, you know, from interpersonal relationships, when you create a sort of respect and a boundary, that allows for a deeper connection, because the person feels safe, because you respect their boundaries, where they, where they are, where they begin and where they end. And because you respect their boundaries, they feel safe, and then you can have a safe connection in an appropriate way. It's in order there should be a revelation. Now you can have two people working together in a useful way, because you have respect, you have boundaries. Then now you can safely do something useful, right? So that's a metaphor for what's going on over here. This is what it's written. I don't know, do we say this in prayer? Well, let's first explain it. With you is the source of life. Very interesting words. Yes, we do say it when we put on the talis. We say this when we put on the garment. So let's the prayer white shawl. It says, Ki imcha mekar chaim, with you is the source of light. Ba'ercha atzmi nira. He adds an extra word over here. In your essential light, we will see light. Oshel tulda, secondary light. Let's read it again. Ki imcha mekar chaim, with you is the source of light. The source of the light, the source of life is the Rishimu, and that's with God. Ba'ercha nira. Now he explains, with your light, or with your light, the essential light that's before tzimtzum, that we can't possibly see, nira we will be able to see a secondary light, shel tulder, a light of that's given birth. Now, how would I explain this? The way it was explained to me, imagine there was a tremendous light and a metal covering. There was a metal covering to cover up the middle light. This tremendous light was so powerful, it started to heat up the red, heat up the metal wall, that the metal wall became red, and now and even a little bit yellow. So now the metal wall is actually shining. So I'm on the other side, and I'm in a dark room, no light whatsoever. But because there's this super light, and then there's this metal wall that's now being heated up by the super light, the metal wall starts to emit light. So that's a light that's being given birth. So, but you're getting an understanding of the light that's before the metal curtain, from seeing the light that emanates from the metal. So that's what we call Oshel Tuda. That's what's going on with this Rishimu. That there's this super energy heating up this protected layer, and we can benefit from the light of the protective layer of the Iron Curtain. And how much energy is going to come out from the Rishimu? It's according to the ruler, like I'm going to explain, with the help of God, may be blessed. Shazeu kol adam. This is the entire purpose of man. It's very powerful words. What we've been explaining to you, v'zeh kol adam. This is the entire purpose of a man. To do what? Lahamig daite. To put, to deeply put his focus, b'chol zeh, on all of this, and similar ideas. This is the purpose of man. We have been given an intellect and an ability to focus on these types of subjects and similar subjects, mifnei, because shemizeh dafka, that from this specifically, yove lechlal hayichud amiti, a man will come, a person will come to the general real oneness. That's how we will be able to relate to the real oneness. Where this is the book of oneness that we're learning, and there's a mitzvah of God's oneness, and actually, this mitzvah applies to all humans. Biskashrus nafshe b'chaye kol hachayim. This will allow a person to tie his soul b'chaye kol hachayim, on the life that's the source of all life. Halyonim, and even the supernal spiritual life. Shehu atzmos arein seif. This is the essence of the unlimited light, mamish, in actual reality, mitama nal v'dal, from all the reasons that we've given before in previous chapters. And what we said till now is enough for an understanding person. In other words, we don't need to say more. And an understanding person will be able to take this information, repeat it over, and it's going to be, everything's going to be understood.
So I have a question, and I hope other people have questions. And my question relates to the concept here of Yevolach Lal Hayichud Hamiti Beskashus Nafshe B'Chai Kol HaChaim Hayonim Shu Atzmos Arin Sof Mamash Ad Tam Hanal. Person is going to come to this, be included, this in this unity, this true unity and great and cleaving and connection of his soul to the source of life, source of all life, which is God Almighty. So in the essence of God. Now,
so then it's eternal life also, because Chaim has limits, but Chaim is eternal life. So.
Right. In the eternal life of the giver of all life, right? So can you discuss this in relationship to the concept that the Baal Shem Tov says that in his letter we talked about how when he asked Moshiach, when is Moshiach going to come? And Moshiach says, when you and then it says over there that everyone is going to be doing yichudim. Everyone's going to be doing these. So can you explain what that concept means? And is it the same concept over here that we're talking about, that every person in the world is going to be making this connection in through their using their Chochmah Bina and Das, like we're describing here, and also through their the actions that they're doing? Can you explain this, how the two relate? Do the two relate together? How they relate, and how is what we're doing part of actually creating the reality of Mashiach?
Yes, absolutely. This is directly creating the reality of Moshiach. It's our custom not to call it Yehudim. The reason is out of the respect of in that story, the Baal Shem Tov was wondering how we're going to get people to this level. And so we had a reaction of two camps. The Baal Shem Tov's like grandson or descendant was like, I'm going to respect my grandfather, and let's see if we can, bring Moshiach more in an intuitive way and not such a professional way of oneness. Let's see if we can give the oneness not in a professional way like the Baal Shem Tov does, because what it says, Yasu gam hema yichudim kameischa, they will do yichudim just like you, as professionally as you, the Baal Shem Tov does. So that's what, we can intuitively connect to the oneness in an unprofessional way, and that's it's a good thing. It's effective, and it helped a lot of people. But if you want to be professional about it, so that was more the Alter Rebbe, the father of the author of this sefer. He believed that, let's teach people how to do it professionally, like in the details, like the Baal Shem Tov does himself. And then his son, of course, is bringing out that legacy, writing up what his father taught him over here. But still, out of the respect of the Baal Shem Tov, we're not going to advertise. Just do it. No need to advertise. Just do it. So what do we need to do? So we can do it like just intuitively, which a lot of people do, and it's a great thing. But if we want to upgrade to do it professionally, we need some order in our thoughts. And we've been learning all about order in our thoughts. And in fact, our Rebbe made it really easy for us, because I think I've explained it before. The Rebbe, the Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel, Schneerson of Lubavitch, he wrote things that he actually organized everything. He actually made organized thought for us. We just need to understand what he's actually saying and apply the metaphor. Usually there's 4 parts, or I think I've explained it before. There's human experience. So you look at everything, pshat, remesh, drush, and side. But let's say that in language that we can relate to. So pshat is human experience. So you look at everything from a level of human experience. Remez is the big idea that this hints to. In other words, the way my experience is in the bigger world, that's in Remez. So in other words, big ideas in the big world, how things work in the world, in the Olam. I think the Rebbe says by the first one, human experience is hergesh enushi, the human feeling. Then the Olam, the next one is how things work in the Olam, that's Remez. And the next one after that is in English, I would call that skills, avoda. Rebbe says avoda, human work. In other words, I didn't come down here just to have a human experience and then to understand how things work in the big world. I got to do something. I got to make a difference. I got to change something. Human interaction, that's called avoda. Avoda, that's the third level. That's drush, because drush in Hebrew means what I demand from people. When I'm derish, I demand. So we have a human experience, and then we have big ideas, and this demands something of us, some action of us to take. We need to be clear on what that action is, according to halacha, according to the law, the Jewish law. And then the fourth level is the side, the secret, which is the Kabbalah, which is the overarching concept, which is the seeing the building blocks of the 10 spheres, how they interact into different domains and different areas and different fields, and it's the same building blocks expressing themselves in a slightly different way. So that's the fourth level. And then the fifth level is the Chassidus, which is the Atmos, the core concept of an idea. So the core concept of an idea, usually it's going to be something to do with, there's some two opposites in every situation. There's something counterintuitive or something paradoxic. There's always a paradoxic element in every situation, every domain. That paradoxic element is a revelation of the essence of God, because God is not like when two opposites come together, what's revealed is something from the essence of God. Like, for example, when a husband and wife come together, what's revealed afterwards is a child. It's something higher than both of them, a new creation. So that's the essence of God being revealed in the paradox. So then, once we understand that there's a paradox, then we have to go back and look at human experience from that paradox. Now look at the big idea, the olam, from that paradox. Look at the human behavior, human avodah, human work, human service from the element of paradox. And then look at the overarching concept, which is the sphera. Look at that with the and understand it from the aspect of paradox, of the essence of the core concept. And then I believe we've done like already 9 levels, because we looked at everything from basic level, then we went to the core concept and applied it to the 4 levels again. So you're left with 9 altogether. There's a core concept, the way we look at the world before we have Chassidus, before we have the essence, the oneness, the paradoxic essence being revealed, and then afterwards. And actually, there's another thing we do afterwards. Right after that, what we do is we realize how there are direct connections between the first level and the third level and the second level and the fourth level. And then that's part of the process. We learn from the Rabbi. And then we go back and look at the first 4, but this time, instead of focusing on in every aspect in the world, there's always a vessel, there's the physicality, and this. There's always an aspect of physicality and spirituality, and the Torah gives us the aspect of spirituality, and that's really what we're being taught to focus on. Like, even when we eat food, think about the spiritual energy that God's giving us, right? And the blessing. And that's what we're taught to focus on, is the spirituality. Look at the soul. But once we've done this process, now it's okay to go back and look at why did God choose that something should be in a certain way? Why did Hashem choose to create this food with this taste, or that it should look like the way it looks, right? If it's the essence of God chose it to be that way, we can't throw that away. We can't just say, oh, just look at the spirituality. Even the physical aspect of it is a creation of God, and the essence of God chose it to be that way. So we look at the 4 levels again, keeping that in mind, and doing an analysis of the vessel. So that's the 9 stages, a little more than 9 stages, because then it will be another. After the 9, it will be another 4. So it would be 13 stages, I guess. Maybe 14 stages if we also we have to connect the 4 levels. So that's basically, in a nutshell, how a professional yichud is done. But you don't need to make it up. It's the Maimarim of the Rebbe and the Sichos of the Lubavitcher Rebbe do it automatically, and you just need to know this process, and you'll be able to pick it up. He's going paragraph from one paragraph to another in a very organized fashion, very often, and he just lays it out there, and it's up to the person to change it from Hasidus language to understandable English that a person can relate to as something real, instead of just semantics, words, spiritual words. We want to understand what this is in the physical world, and that's how apparently how the yichud is done. But it's already been done for us. Learn the sichos and the maimarim of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. While you know this process, you can be able to recognize that he's following this path.
Can you send us? We'll distribute to everyone who's attending a summary of this, or is this written somewhere? The summary of the remes, the pardes, the 4 levels, and exactly what you're talking right now.
You know what? I'm gonna I'm going to send you my little English summary of the Rebbe's Maidani, because one of the main places first places where we learned, and I'm speaking about a few people I saw could do this on their own. I saw Rabbi Yosef Yitzhak Jacobson do it, so he picked it up. He figured out how to do it. I also saw a Rabbi Pinson who's into like Kabbalah. He recognized the value of doing this, and I saw him on a video doing it, and I was impressed that he picked up on the value of it and how to do it as well. And so we learned it from the Rebbe, from a special mimer called Kuntres Inyana Teres HaChasidus, which is all about the prayer that we say when we wake up in the morning. And by the way, the Rebbe said that it applies to all humans. He said when they were discussing what type of gift the Chabad movement should give to the Prime Minister of Canada, the Rebbe suggested they give him a siddur, a prayer book, and put it in a double covering, because it should, the holiness should be protected, should be respected properly in a double covering. So give him a nice container double covering. And he said, because there's a lot of those prayers apply to all of humanity, especially the first one, the first one upon waking up in the morning. So I have in my notes of 18 days what to think every single day to go through this whole process. I wrote notes on it. Of course, I was originally taught this by Rabbi Benjamin Walters, and but I'll send you those notes, and you can share that with people. 18 days. What do you think every day when you're waking up, and you complete an entire yichud by every day contemplating one aspect of the 18 days.
Well, that'd be really fantastic. In fact, that's in my class that I give on Wednesday nights in person to non-Jews who are interested in learning how to pray and learning about the Torah. Then that's the first prayer I start with. Once we get to prayer, I start with Maidani. So that would be, I would like your 18 steps, your 18-day process for myself, and also to be able to share with them. So that would be wonderful.
This is like the Baal Shem Tov Yechudim,
So tell me, I have two questions now. Tell me what does an unprofessional Yechudim look like?
Well, when you just try to intuitively be part of the oneness without going through details in an organized fashion. So,
am I accomplishing in that unprofessional way? Am I accomplishing anything of value?
Of course, it's a mitzvah.
So, if I'm accomplishing it, is it a relatively more or less value than doing it in a professional way? Or do I have to go through all the professional steps to get to the Yechudim? What does God want from me?
Well, I don't know. This is the discussion between the children of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. But we would, without any fanfare, we would do the Kamaischa. We will do the Yechudim like with all the details. If we have the capability, we will definitely do it with all the details without any fanfare. We're not going to advertise.
So tell me about this advertising thing for a minute, because it seems to be
aspect of the Alter Rebbe, who's a descendant of and that they believe we should have Moshiach, without doing this. And
so, one second. So, who are we respecting here? The Baal Shem Tov or the Baal Shem Tov's children or grandchildren who didn't want to didn't think this was the right way, so we do it without publicizing that we're doing it.
Right.
So it's not out of respect for the Baal Shem Tov. It's out of respect for the Baal Shem Tov's
the way they understood the Baal Shem Tov, the way the grandchildren understood the Baal Shem Tov.
But doesn't that lead to the consequence that even a person who's following in the footsteps of the Balatani, the Alter Rebbe, is going to kind of lose sight of this concept that even I could do Yechudim, and even I am supposed to do Yechudim, and end up think it's beyond us because no one talks about it, and therefore it's not really relevant to us.
Yeah, but the thing is, once a person thinks, even I see, depends. I saw like a Frierdiker Rebbe, a person thinks, oh, I can do Yechudim, then it's not a Yechud anymore. You're creating You're not becoming one of them oneness. You're creating a separation. So it's better just not to advertise, just to do it.
Okay. So are people aware of what they're doing when they're doing it?
They don't need to. I don't think the Rebbe really told them, officially what he's doing in his works. I mean, he did tell them, but he never like pointed it with his finger, like it's only how much you can bring people by their hand, but he sort of did the work, but that much.
Well, I guess the question.
The student will get it himself,
So in the student, so my question is the Yehudim Kamoicha that the Yehudim should be like you, referring to the Baal Shem Tov? This is Moshiach's answer to him. Does that mean that the person should be conscious of that, or just because of the studies he's done? Let's say he comes to this class and he learns to do this, and he does it, but he doesn't realize that he's doing it in the same way the Baal Shem Tov, or that's not conscious of that. Is it still fulfilling?
That's what the Rebbe has in mind. I think that's what our Rebbe has in mind.
So we're not getting ourselves a little certificate, a little degree, and a little badge that now I'm doing a chidim of the Baal Shem Tov. I've reached this level.
Absolutely not. It should be just let it happen. Just let it happen. Don't focus on it. Don't think you did anything special.
And because if I think I'm something special or I'm doing something special, obviously if I think I'm something special, then that's an issue. But if I think I've accomplished a certain level, then that you're saying is itself undermining the whole concept of the unity with Hashem, because now I'm thinking I'm something special.
Right.
So how do we publicize this in a way that people see that this is something that should be done, because this is something that's necessary as part of the fulfillment of coming Moshiach, at the same time without filling our heads or filling their heads with the idea that they're now something special from doing it?
No, so it's all about, so you don't publicize Yehudim, you publicize 18 steps to Maidani. And you should be doing this because it's very important. To do Maidani in all 18 different ways that the Rebbe taught us.
So it doesn't have to, we're not publicizing it as a class in Yehudim. Get the Yehudim, get qualified in Yehudim, even if we don't give a degree or certificate. It's that.
Good. No good.
Yeah.
But get qualified in Maidani, get qualified in the tefillin, or in the kavanah of this, or the kavanah of that mitzvah,
I'd be interested in doing a poll, just like a random poll of people, and like just walk up to people in the street and say, when's the last time you did any Yehudim like the Baal Shem Tov? Leaving aside people who would like try to pretend they didn't, but I'm saying if people gave honest answers, how many people would say, yeah, I do that from time to time, or I do that regularly. I don't publicize it, but I really do it. And how many people would say, like, I don't think that that's really something that we could do? How many people are conscious, among people who study the Torah of the Alter Rebbe, how many people are conscious of this as a attainable, achievable reality in their lives on a day-to-day basis?
I don't know if you can count them on your hands.
Okay, so then my question to you is,
although I think Rabbi Pinson, publicized to a certain extent the importance of Yehudim. He spoke about it in an open way. But I don't know if his students were equipped to the level where they could do it themselves.
Right.
And I saw Jacobson. He's just a great preparer, so he was able to prepare the steps.
But okay, so I'll tell you why I had an experience like related to this, and why I'm asking these questions. I think it's so important for us to discuss this and clarify this for our times, because I was speaking in shul, and I don't know exactly what I was saying. I think I was talking about what the Baal Shem Tov was saying. Oh, I think I was talking about what the Baal Shem Tov was saying. I'm talking about Mashiach said that the well springs of the knowledge of godliness that the Baal Shem Tov is bringing into the world have to spread chutzan, to the farthest reaches of the world, which means also the non-Jews, the furthest expanses of humanity. And I saying that I was talking about the importance of doing this. So someone was challenging me, and he says, "You know what else it says in the letter? That everyone's going to be doing yichudim." And like he was challenging me, like, "Yeah, right." You know, it's like, and so this was a person who actually knew what it says in the letter. He was challenging me, like, "Yeah, right. We're all going to be doing yichudim," like as if this is not something that's really attainable. It's something that's an idea that only the Baal Shem Tov could do. So, and this is a person who's well educated, well enough educated to quote the letter and use parts of the letter to try to challenge what I was saying. And so it struck me that where's the disconnect, so to speak? Has the Rebbe's approach of and the approach of the Alter Rebbe, starting with Alter Rebbe, of not publicizing it, and the approach of the Rebbe to teach us it, but without telling us what we're doing.
Yes, but he sort of tell us, not he didn't like rub it in, you know.
But okay, but has it been so muted that the people that he was teaching aren't even really cognizant of this as a reality, that that's what they are doing and meant to be doing, and that therefore all of humanity could do it, because if I could do it, then you could do it too.
Right. They're not, people are not conscious, but it's really accessible with some training. I mean, how many, you know, I think the people that have been listening to this regularly have almost enough building blocks that they could actually start reading the Rebbe's works and start seeing, with the help, obviously with the help of a teacher still, to be able to see the different blocks. I think they've had enough training. It's like any professional training. It's taken us many hours over the last 6 months, but that's what training is in any field. You need training.
Right. So
and I really think that you know, people need to ask themselves, is their service of God adequate? You know, really, is it, are they, you know, do they have the attention to detail necessary that they should, according to their capabilities? Because I think people have much more capabilities, and I think they don't believe that they can have that level of accuracy. They don't believe that they could have the training, they could have that level of accuracy to be actually doing yichudim. They don't realize it's right in front of them. It's like a treasure of gold that's like in your living room, and you don't know that it's there.
Right.
You told you that this is gold.
So aren't we in a paradox in the sense that this is something that's so accessible? It's not only as accessible for every human being, but it's also something that's necessary. It is the revelation of the state of being of humanity that is the times of Moshiach. And yet at the same time, not only that the people who have not been exposed to this are not even aware of this potential that they have, but even the people who are exposed to it think that it's really meant for only great, very, very super righteous people of previous generations, and who are we to even think of doing something like that? Aren't we in a paradox when something that's so necessary, so accessible is yet pushed away? Either people are ignorant to it, or they dismiss it as being something that's not even in the realm of possibility for them.
Right, and not only that, sometimes they've actually been trained in yichudim. They don't even know that they've been trained in yichudim. They probably live a few yichudim in their personal lives. They don't even know that they are yichudim.
Right. Okay, but that's you're being malamet schus. You're seeing merit in the fact that they're doing it, so to speak, unknowingly. But at the same time, how do we transition the world? Where the Rebbe said, how do we get people to want to bring Mashiach? How do we get ourselves to want to bring Mashiach?
So
isn't this an essential part of it?
Yes. So again, it needs to be like Maidani. We need to not tell everybody this is Yehudim, but just do a really good job at explaining Maidani, or this Maimar or that Maimar. Do a really good job that it becomes extremely real, and that people take it seriously, like really seriously.
So if we were going to put this into a context of a campaign, like we said, the Rebbe would have campaigns to focus on one thing at a time. If we were going to focus on one thing, it would look like
Kavanas HaMitzvahs, the proper intent in fulfilling this will be very prati, very specific.
Right, and even take it down to one mitzvah or one prayer, and our job would be have 8 billion human beings wake up in the morning and say Maida Ani with this intention, and with the 18 steps that you're talking about, to be able to complete the yichudim without even necessarily telling them that they're doing the yichudim, but they would eventually learn it, obviously. But I'm saying we wouldn't advertise it as we want to get 8 billion people to say yichudim. We would say we want 8 billion people to start the day with Moedeh Ani with this level of awareness. Is that correct? Would that be a campaign?
With gratitude and awareness into life, right? Just yes. Instead of just go into the specifics of what it's supposed to be done, instead of labeling it what the outcome will be. Let God make the outcome.
Okay, so now we have some questions here. I hope everyone's enjoying this conversation with Rabbi Chyrek and I, because we are serious about wanting to transform the world to Moshiach, and we're confronting a question over here which applies to all of us. We have to ask ourselves, what can we do to bring Moshiach? What can we do to transform the world and bring redemption to the world? And we have in our hands right here in this class, we are learning the material of Moshiach, and we want to know, how do we get this that the whole 8 billion people are going to be able to see that? Because that's really God's desire, that He created these 8 billion precious people, that they should be able to recognize Him and just walk around all day seeing Him, as that's all there is in existence. So we have a couple questions over here. And so the first question is a technical question more. And does it matter if we can quantify how many are doing it? So I don't know if that's really quite a technical question. I think he was responding to my point. I kept saying, maybe that was a response to my point about making a poll, but like how many people? I wasn't, to the person asking that question, I wasn't asking that because I need to do a statistical poll in the sense of saying, okay, we got 20% of the world population doing it, or 3% or 99%. I meant to say, by doing the poll, I want to bring to our attention the fact that most people are not even aware of it, even those that theoretically should be, they're not aware of it. So that's my point of saying the poll. But the quantity is really, I would say, and I want to hear what Rabbi Chyrek says, but our goal is 100%. Meaning to say, it's not that it's nice to have a small number of people, it's nice to have a bigger number of people, but the world is not complete. God's vision for reality and for the world is not complete until every single human being is doing it. Rabbi Chyrek, what's your comment on the point of understanding how many people are already doing this in the world and how many more we have left to get to?
So there is a snowball effect at one point in time. When something becomes accessible by 10 people, it becomes accessible by another 10 people, by another 10 people. So I don't know where the tipping point is, right? Somebody's mentioning the monkey effect. They train monkeys in a certain way, and then in a different area, the monkeys change their behavior. So it seems like there was some magnetic connection between 100 monkeys in one area to 100 monkeys in a different area. That means that, like the Rebbe said, you only need to start with 10 people. Start with 10 people, then you have a snowball effect.
Right. Okay. So that's
so from a business, and so you say 10 people, you need to 10x it, so it needs to be 100 people. That's how you start. 100 people. That's how you start thinking.
So the 100 people, then if we have 100 people, okay, so that's very interesting. So that not just
people. You see how it goes. If you want 100, you need to market it to 10,000 people. That 1,000 people learn it, and actually 100 people do it, and then you're going to have the 10 that's going to create the snowball effect.
And they will then affect from the 10 to the 100 to the 1,000 to 10,000 to 100,000 million, 100 million, a billion, and 10 billion. There you go. Right. It's only a few steps.
It's only a few steps. It's 10 people that create the snowball effect. But get those 10 people is you need to market to 10,000. You need a good marketing campaign to 10,000.
So you're bringing out another point. I think what I'm hearing from this is that when the Rebbe says who really wants to bring Moshiach, it's not just enough for me to have want that I want to bring Moshiach, and I'm willing to even have the conversation and spend the time on it. But I actually have to, if I really want to be one of those catalysts, not only to change myself, but the whole world, I have to be willing to do the work to be one of those game changers, so to speak.
Right. And you need to do the math, and you need to do the fundraising, and you need to quantify something which is accessible. And I also think we want to say the goal of Moshiach, but you have to remember, Mashiach is very good. The reason why saying the goal of Mashiach is good because it doesn't it pushes away non-halachic visions of the oneness of God. Because once you say Mashiach, we mean like the Rambam's Mashiach. We mean specific things, right, and not other things. However, it's still good to use words which truly signify what Mashiach is, which is an awareness of the oneness. So when you see things in what they really mean, you don't have what we call negative feedback. Because when you say things the way they are and reveal the essence, so even the biggest enemy like doesn't want to fight it.
Right, because he wants the same result, really.
Yeah, in Yichud Eilah and the high Yichud, even the biggest enemies, the biggest just go, you can imagine yourself, right? They do not want to fight against real oneness the way it is in the higher unity. So say things the way they are, and you will not get, if you say a recognition of the oneness, something like that.
Okay, that's a great point. So you really need both. You need a recognition of the oneness, and you need the concept of Mashiach at the same time to clarify exactly where it's rooted in the Torah, and that it's something that is as described in the Rambam. So this point that you're making about recognition of the oneness and being very clear about what it's about, so that everyone can understand it, leads us to the next question, which one of the participants was asking the question, really going back to my point. Well, we have this, on one hand, we want everyone to be doing a chudim like the Baal Shem Tov, but we're not going to be directly describing it as that. So the question is, coming back to the same point, why not just be direct about the intent from the beginning? Say, hey, I want to train you. Walk up to a guy in the street and you say, I want to train you how to do yechudim like the Baal Shem Tov.
No, so I wouldn't say that, because that becomes, those words become misinterpreted. In other words, the intent of those words go the wrong way. But if you say what those words really mean, I want you to be aware of the oneness, just like the Baal Shem Tov was aware of the oneness, then there's nothing wrong with that. If you say it with the words that can't be misinterpreted.
Okay, because if we go up to someone and say the word yichudim, it sounds like a status, almost like a
God forbid.
Right, and we're not interested in status, so we have to point people to the real oneness with Hashem, and that's what we're getting at. So we would like you, like I said, take the example, walking out someone in the street. I would like to speak to you about experiencing or recognizing the oneness of God Almighty, just like the Baal Shem Tov did.
Well, yeah, I mean, that sounds a little haughty, like the Baal Shem Tov taught us, because he did. He taught the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe didn't make this up. He learned from the Baal Shem Tov. So like was passed down to us from the Baal Shem Tov. That's the best way. So
we are being direct. We're being direct about what we want to accomplish and what we're teaching. It's just that we're being careful about how we express it so that it's not misinterpreted or lead it into unintended consequences.
Right. So we're using words that the receiver would understand in a way, I see a comment on the screen. In a way that the receiver would understand the same intent as the Baal Shem Tov had.
Well, that's right. And it's interesting that the way it's written over here, we should be clear and direct, but just use language the receiver will understand. It's really keys into the wording that the Rebbe used in the Sikha, in the talk from Koyach Nissen Taf Shin Nun Beis, Nun Aleph, when the Rebbe said that he's done everything he can to figure out how to get us to want to bring Mashiach, and he's turning it over to us to figure it out, he says that there should be this very powerful light in in the way that the recipient can understand it and can receive it. So, right. So that's exactly what we're talking about over here. We're talking about the highest conceptions, but we want to make sure that it's... Sorry, go ahead.
Ordinary words.
Put in ordinary words that the person can understand that here I am to connect you to the oneness of God Almighty in a way that you're aware of it and connecting to it and one with it, just like the Baal Shem Tov taught us. That's how to say it in a way that's eifin and miskabel, in a way that the receiver can contain it and be able to grasp it.
Right. I see somebody wanted to say a comment. Cohen.
Yeah. Do you want to? Can you just type your question, please? Okay, let's see if she types the question. Okay, so I think this has been just an incredible discussion here, and what I'd like to do now is we're going to pause, unless there's another question. I want to pause, and we'll just say a few words about coming Parsha, about Rosh Hashanah, and then we will reconvene next week. Okay, so I'm just going to pause the recording. Thank you, Rabbi Chyrek.